What's up, geeks and gamers? It's Odin coming back with a video, and today we've got the box office breakdown for the weekend of December 6th to December 8th, and once again, Frozen 2 is on top, making another $34.6 million in the domestic market, with Knives Out coming in at number 2, once again, making $14.1 million, with a 47% drop in its week 2, which actually is pretty good for Knives Out, for a Rian Johnson film, especially. The last film that he directed had a 67 or so percent drop from week 1 to week 2. So, hey, Rian Johnson, sounds like you should probably stick with your independent films and stay the hell away from Star Wars. Ford v Ferrari's coming in at number 3 with $6.5 million, with another very small drop of 50% from to $6.5 million, and it is still available in over 3,000 theaters. So that film is definitely still performing in the domestic marketplace, as we have seen. They actually even added 161 theaters, where Frozen 2 ended up losing 92. No change for Knives Out. To me, the really huge story, though, when it comes to the number of theaters that were lost, is when you look all the way down here to number, what was that, 15? They don't even number them after this point in time. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, in 22nd place this weekend with $215,000. You heard that right. $215,000 is Charlie's Angels, which they are still trying to make excuses for as to why it did bad, which lost, yes, you see that correctly, 2,453 screens. I don't think I've ever seen a number that high, but when they had no change from week 1 to week 2 after it bombed in its opening weekend, it really isn't all that surprising that they're finally saying, yeah, you know what, we can't justify keeping this movie out any longer. Let's get it the hell out of here. And so it is indeed showing at very few theaters, very few showtimes here in the States. And you know what? It freaking deserves it at this point in time. One film that I personally thoroughly enjoyed, which is doing okay at the box office, is A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, the Tom Hanks film where he plays Mr. Rogers. A 56% drop, actually added 256 theaters, which hopefully gets it a little bit more recognition, a little bit more space. And so far, it has not made all that much money. As far as the worldwide totals go, $43.1 million domestically isn't terrible, but it does need to make a little bit more if it is going to be expected to make any profit, or at the very least break even. And all the while, with now in its 10th week, that's right, now in its 10th week, Joker has now made it's insane. 956 theaters. It's still out there. It's made $332 million here domestically, and it made another $1 million. So while Charlie's Angels is out in its 4th week, making $215,000, and another film like Terminator Dark Fate, which is in its 6th week, making $305,000, you have frickin' Joker that is still making over $1 million in a weekend, and that is very exciting. For those that are wondering, it will be released on Blu-ray and 4K on physical media January 7th. I've already got mine pre-ordered, and I can't wait to get it. I got the Steelbook from Best Buy because it's such a good movie, and I want to dive into those behind the scenes, and maybe even if there's a director's commentary track, because it's just so good for so many different reasons. But let's just dive into some of the movies. You know what? I'll pull up Joker. It's been a long time since we talked about Joker on the channel, so let me put that up. Against it for 10 weeks. Most films are out by this time. Go ahead and look to the fact that you have really poor films like Charlie's Angels in its 4th week that are probably going to be going out soon. But first off, Frozen 2. Frozen 2, film I did not like. I thought it was quite boring. I thought the story was very poorly put together. Beautiful animation, so kids are going to love it because that's all they really care about. Mostly forgettable soundtrack, but $919 million in its 2nd week. So the fact that it is now up to the point where it's almost going to make $1 billion, it does seem to be an indication that it's going to very easily cross the $1 billion mark, probably sometime this week, not even by next weekend, but sometime this week. And very well could tap out around the $1.4 million range, which is what the high end of my estimates were, because, of course, it's odd and hard sometimes to be able to tell that when it has a holiday weekend, because holiday weekends usually are a little bit more dispersed. You have a little bit more money going in because everyone's off. But something tells me Frozen 2 will continue to do pretty well in the domestic marketplace, even though you have films like Jumanji, The Next Level, coming out next week. And also, of course, you have Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker coming out the week after that. But something tells me Frozen 2 2 will continue to perform because it's a kids movie, and therefore families will continue to go see it. The early estimates looked like it was going to be a much higher drop from week 1 to week 2. I mentioned this on my channel, that it was upwards of 70%. In fact, the Friday to Friday drop was 77%, but I did say that likely was going to be because of the holiday weekend, and sure enough, it had a 60% drop from weekend 1 to weekend 2, which is pretty much on par with what most films tend to do. So it's definitely a film that's not slowing down anytime soon, especially in the international marketplace. The fact that the film has already surpassed films like Joker in its second weekend domestically kind of just shows you what kind of a juggernaut this film is. I don't think it's worth seeing, but again, you decide to do with what your money, with what you will do. I'll tell you what I'm going to decide to do with my money, and that's not give it to Rian Johnson's Knives Out. So even though I have heard some mixed things about it, some people have praised it, some have said, yeah, it's just more and more of the same bad writing that we get from Rian Johnson. I will say this much, and Mark the Cyborg on the channel has kind of echoed this mindset. You know what? If this film needs to do well in order for Rian Johnson to stay away from Star Wars, then please go right ahead. Continue to make your little indie films and make your money and leave Star Wars alone, please, because the last thing we need is a Last Jedi Part 2, because no one wants that. No one in the fandom really wants that. Anyone that's saying that's a great film and it's the greatest film of all time isn't paying attention to it. If you liked it, okay, fine. You enjoyed it. Subjectively, you can enjoy it. But if you're going to say it's the best of all time, meaning you're going to try and throw an objective standard in there, no. Get that nonsense out of here. But this film is almost at $100 million. So this is a film that's definitely going to be making some profit because it only cost about $40 million or so to actually make the film. And even though with marketing costs $60 million, and even though they only get 60%, that means that this film is basically at the break-even point as of this weekend. So this film is definitely going to be making some profit, especially since it had a very low drop-off, a very low percentage drop from week 1 to week 2. So, hey, good job, Rian Johnson. Stop making Star Wars films, make these films, and we'll be okay. I'll stay away from you, you stay away from us, and we'll be fine. Ford v Ferrari now has $167 million. It seems to make it making a little bit more in the international marketplace, but that really is going to be its Achilles heel if the marketing for it is not going to be as bad because of deals that they likely made with companies like Coca-Cola or even Ford and Ferrari Motor Company, because those are obviously cars and brands that are mentioned in there. I'm wondering if there was, we don't really have that information, whether and how much money was given between those companies. It seems like it'll be okay, even though the actual box office numbers aren't going to match up to the industry standards of how much money the movie actually would need to make domestically and internationally at the box office only. So not taking into account those other deals in order to break even. It doesn't seem like it's going to get to that point on the box office alone. But many people have made good points that likely because of those marketing deals and those ad placements and ad spots in the movie where you have Coca-Cola being featured, etc., I think that this film will probably be fine. Still a film that I think is worth seeing, so definitely check it out if you can. And Joker is now at $1.05 billion, which definitely puts it in the territory of being in one of the highest grossing films of the year. The problem, of course, being that you have Frozen 2 that by next weekend will have surpassed it, so it doesn't look like this is going to get into the top 5, but Joker definitely could beat at least one Disney movie this year. In fact, let me see if I can try and pull that up. The box office, let's see, records, domestic, worldwide, 2019 worldwide totals. So as of right now, you have Joker in at number 7 with $1.05 billion. And so basically, if it's still at your theater and you want Joker to at least be able to beat Aladdin, please, Lord, let Joker at least be that freaking Aladdin remake. Go see the movie if you can, because it just needs to make just a little bit more to pass up Aladdin. It's not going to be able to pass up because of the way it's not showing in many theaters now. It's not going to be able to pass up Toy Story 4. That was definitely a high-end goal for the film, but if at the very least it can defeat one Disney film that got a China release and it was just crap, you know what? I'll take it. I'll take whatever I can for that movie, because that's such a damn good film that deserves to be in there. Obviously, it's not going to get in top 5 at this point in time because, as I said, even though it might take off Aladdin, it's not going to take off any of these other ones, and obviously you can see Frozen 2 is not far from behind from joining the top 5, surpassing films like Toy Story 4 and eventually Captain Marvel, Spider-Man Far From Home. Probably won't be able to beat Lion King. I still can't believe Lion King made $1.6 billion because, dear Lord, that's stupid. But that being said, let's go ahead and support Joker as best we can. But anyway, what are your thoughts about the box office for this weekend? Again, Ford Ferrari, I highly recommend it. Have you seen Knives Out? Anyone that's not willing to put up with Rian Johnson, let me know. Also, Frozen 2, do you think it's a good movie? Honestly, I could see myself remembering and maybe watching at some point in the future with a niece or nephew the original Frozen film, because there is some fun stuff to be had in that movie, and overall, I don't hate it. I really just don't like the story for Frozen 2. I mean, just there's so many just blatant plot holes that just and inconsistencies that bother me. And some people might argue saying, "Oh, it's just a kids movie. Why are you letting it bother you, man?" And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but I've seen them be able to make good kids movies in the past that have been smart and that have been able to be enjoyed by both adults and kids alike. For example, Inside Out to me was a great film dealing with emotions, conversations about emotions, which I personally liked. So as I said, they can do it. It just seems like a very lazy sequel. 6 years after the original release, they could have done a lot better and a lot more for it. But let me know your thoughts about that and all the things we're talking about in the comment section below. If you like this video, go check me out on Odin's movie blog. I've had some crazy stuff happening with the channel on Twitter and social media, all that nonsense. So if you want to support the channel, if you want to support the work that I do, please at least go subscribe over to the Odin's Movie Blog channel. It should be available in the pinned comment in the section below. But again, show me some love. If you leave a comment on a recent video saying Geeks and Gamers sent me, or you sent me from Geeks and Gamers, I'd appreciate it. Anyway, you guys are freaking awesome. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.